Restart the video. Restart it.
That was on here. He was gonna say
No, nobody wants to record it. It's fine.
Who's got? You think Justice is gonna watch that?
All
No.
right, concentrate. Today we're gonna talk about annual percentage rates. Okay, we've talked about this a little bit throughout the kind of times that we have interest rates. That is the rate that we're talking about for the annual percentage. Okay. The annual percentage rate, or the APR, is actually what the lender tells the borrower the annual rate is. Now, the difference is sometimes it's actually higher than the interest rate that they kind of explain or put out there. So it's kind of misleading in a sense. And that's where APR kind of gets a bad rap. But they kind of do it to themselves. Okay? So the amount that is actually borrowed, we're going to call the amount financed. So that's going to be kind of a different situation when we start talking about what we're borrowing. So this isn't exactly the same thing as what we were doing with our installment loans. It's a little harder to find your APR, the actual APR on installment loans, because if you go through that process, I'm never using the same number all the time, am I? Remember, because we made a payment and then it went down, and so our interest rate was always going down. So our APR that they tell us at the beginning is hard to figure out for that whole system because the amount's always changing. A true APR would be something that you would use consistently over time, meaning that it would try to stay consistent. So this Roder already exclaimed her what do we say?
Molly, your phone's
Disgust.
calling.
Disgust would be a good word for this chart, but it's not as bad as it looks. So,
Oh my God.
look at the annual interest or annual percentage rate. The most important part of this is like the third thing on this chart. The third thing on this chart says the finance charge per $100 of amount financed. So keep that in mind as you're doing this section. It's all based on $100. So whenever you do a calculation today, sometime you're going to have to multiply by 100 to get to your dollar amount. So keep that in the back of your mind. So basically, if you then go above the chart, it says the finance charge for $100 of amount financed is, you're going to find your finance charge, which we would call what? What's another way of saying the finance charge? The interest, right? This is our bad interest again. The amount of interest that we accumulated over the amount financed. But again, the amount financed in this particular section is basically what we borrowed or what we used the money for, okay? And then always times $100. Because you're going to then, each one of those little numbers on the chart that Molly didn't like, those are all dollar amounts. So see where it says 12 3/4%, and then you go down and it says number of payments 3, and in that little box it was 2.13. That really means $2.13. Okay? Here's the weird part about this chart. You'll never probably get one of those numbers unless you're really, really lucky with your calculation. Okay, so you'll never get an exact answer in this section. And it doesn't matter that you don't get an exact answer. You're going to take your answer and compare it to the closest answer in the chart. It does not matter if it's higher or lower than that. So it's not like once it goes over, you can't use that one again. You can go back even if it's higher or lower. And this will make a little bit more sense when we actually figure this out. So we're looking at trying to figure out what our annual percentage rate is. So even though the problem gives you a percentage, that would be what you're figuring your interest from. Your annual interest, or your APR, your annual percentage rate, might be actually higher than what they kind of advertised. And that's what you're going to do in your math here. You're going to actually figure out what the actual rate is. Okay, so the actual rates, again, are across the top. And then the number of payments are along the left-hand side. Okay? That's all you have to do in this section. Very simple. We should hopefully get this all done before we leave. So, go up to letter A.
I have a question off topic.
Yep.
So the other day I was online shopping or something.
Yep.
And it said I could do it and make like 4 or 10 payments of like $45, but then it said with no interest. Why would they do that? Just using some app I could do that.
And then the app's tied into some other version of it, that they're making money some other way besides charging you interest. Did you have to pay for the app?
I don't know. I didn't actually look into it.
Okay, so yeah, maybe the app costs you something, and so then to basically get you to join, they would entice you by doing that, so then maybe the app costs more than the actual interest amount. There's probably some kind of secret thing going there that most people aren't gonna realize that it's gonna happen to them until they get their bill. And then because it's in really small print, so, you know, I would guess that would be one of those cases. That makes
What were
sense?
you buying for $450?
That wasn't like the exact.
Oh.
I forgot what it like actually said.
Okay, so letter A, up on top. I can't read it upside down. Manila borrowed $800 on a loan. What? I don't know, that's what, oh, Molina? It looked like Manila to me. It's upside down. Borrowed $800 on a loan with a finance charge of $78. Find the finance charge per $100, the amount of the amount financed. I really need to look up regular. So, all you're doing in this part right here is trying to find the number that you would take to the chart. You're not even actually going to use the chart in this problem. So, they already figured out your finance charge. They already told you all the things that you're going to do. So, in this particular case, in letter A, you're simply taking the $78 and dividing it by however much you borrow. Okay? So, 78 over 800. Punch that into your calculator, and you should get a decimal.
0.0975.
Then take that times 100, and this would be the number that you would take to the chart. So after you get this decimal and multiply by 100, what's the dollar amount? $9.75. So this is why you can't use the chart. You can't use the chart in this part because they didn't tell you how many payments you would make. So let's just ballpark it. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So let's say that we had 12 payments. Now they didn't say this, but you made 12 payments on your $800. So on the left-hand side, go down and find 12. Okay. Right. So now go across each 12, and you're looking for this amount, or the closest thing to $9.75. So the APR would have been 17.5%. That makes sense? So yes, as Tiff said, there's multiple numbers of each payment sometime. And that's okay. That's why you have to go through and find the amount. That makes sense? All right, so let's look at B. B tells you all the things that you need. So Chris borrowed $250 on a 12-month loan. So 12 already tells you the number of payments. However many months that you borrow it is the number of payments on the left-hand side. Finance charge was $20. Find the finance charge per $100. So when they say per the $100, that tells you this part right here, that you have to multiply by 100. So we're going to do, for B, we're going to do 20 over, what was the amount? 250 equals some decimal again times 100, and then you should get your amount. So if you did that, what do we get? 11 point what? that right?
No.
It's .08.
No.
It's a calculator.
No, it's not.
I didn't use my phone this time.
Well, then go back to your phone. You've never had problems with your phone. $8, I believe is right. So now, take it, left-hand side, 12 payments, find the closest thing to $8. It does not have to be the same $8. So what do you get?
14 and a half.
Everybody find 14.5%?
And then that'd be your answer.
And this is my answer.
Sweet.
So basically, they'll say, what is the APR?
Wait, so will they always give you, your finance charge?
Yes.
Your interest?
Well, if they don't give you the finance charge, then you'd have to figure that out from the last section that we did. Okay? But that would be a really long problem. So they're probably going to. The last thing before, we got a lot of time, I want you to look at this financial responsibility thing. Okay? I want you to read, it says, consider some of the risks of buying on credit or with a loan. So you don't even have to read them, but what would be the reason that, we've talked about this before, that we don't like to buy on credit or by loan? What'd you say? Debt. What else? Okay, I might forget about it. What else? Interest. So I'm going to do what? I'm going to end up paying more. What else about your debt comment? Not only do I get into debt, but then I have to remember to what? Pay it. Like Tiff said, I might forget. And so if I forget and I'm in debt, then what happens? I go more in debt, right? So the thing that we have to think about, especially at your age, and we're really close to moving out of mom and dad's house. Are they going to cut us off entirely? Maybe, maybe not. But saving ourselves from debt is not finding 2 or 3, 4 credit cards to do that from, right? Hopefully, we've kind of gotten that. So once you start getting in debt, no offense, be a man or a woman and go and ask for help. So you don't bury yourself in such a hole that there's no possible way that you can get out of there. Understand what I'm saying? Okay, so look down at the bottom, and we're not going to go through this, but they talk about if you would have bad debt, like Derek said, this person wanted to have a 48-month installment plan, and depending on your credit, your interest rate went from 10% to 29%. That's a big difference, right? And notice down at the bottom then, if I had a 10% interest rate compared to a 29% interest rate, look at my monthly payments. They basically went up what? Just about $20. So again, that's what we're trying to stress here, is that if you have bad credit because of getting in debt early and not being able to get out because now I'm trying to catch up and there's probably no way of me catching up because I have bills and I have college and I have this and I have that and it just keeps mounting up. We go from making payments of $38 to making payments of $53. It's a big deal. So again, I'm just trying to open your eyes to reality in a sense. And honestly, we're trying to scare you a little bit. Okay? So, everybody okay with what you're going to do on the problem? So you might have to find that finance charge like Tiff said, but I don't think you have to in any of this. Okay? Tomorrow, notice, quiz tomorrow, review on Wednesday, test on Thursday.
Oh boy.
So quiz tomorrow, I'll look I think it's just 2 or 3 sections, but I'll look for sure and